Today is Saturday, 26th of February, 2022, and we are gathered here for the 22nd session of the Mindfulness for Beginners in English program. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to welcome, with permission to speak Bhante's name, representing Nissarana Vanaya Forest Monastery, Venerable Homagama Dhamma Kusala, to today's session. I would like to welcome all the organizers to today's session as well. And finally, all the participants taking part via Zoom today. Before we start today's program, I'd like to encourage everyone who feels comfortable to do so to share their camera feed with us. The ability to see each other while we participate in this session can help create a sense of community, and it can also help Venerable Bhante feel connected to us during his instruction. With that, I would invite Venerable Dhamma Kusala to start today's program with our in-session mindfulness practice, which is the usual way we start these sessions. Over to you, Bhante, with much merits.
Dear friends, today also we are connecting here for another program. So I thought maybe we can do a walking session today as the starting part of our program. So maybe we will take about 15-20 minutes to do the walking session. For this, you have to make sure that you have some space that you can walk back and forth without any disturbances. Once you have that space cleared, you can start walking and just be aware that you are walking. We walk back and forth again and again while paying attention. So that is the difference. Usually we walk every day, but our attention is somewhere else. Sometimes we are thinking about the destination, thinking about the task that we have to do while walking. But the difference when we practice is that we try to pay attention that we are walking. We try to be aware that we are walking. When you pay attention, you may start to notice various things. Sometimes you may hear sounds from your surroundings. Sometimes you will get thoughts. Then the sights you see will demand your attention. So you walk back and forth again and again while paying attention, while being aware. When you do this for a few minutes, you may start to notice that your body is walking. Bodily sensations you may feel. Maybe how the ground is feeling, the texture of the ground, temperature differences of the ground, you may notice. Then how the weight is shifting from one leg to the other, you may notice. So when we pay attention, we will notice various things. So that is okay. Our idea is to continue paying attention while walking. So again and again, sounds may appear. Again and again, thoughts may appear. Again and again, your attention will go to the surrounding things that you see. But you can be mindful. You can be aware that I am hearing something, I am thinking something, or I am seeing something. With that awareness, you can bring your attention to the present moment. Again and again, you can become aware that you are walking. So the idea is to keep that awareness while walking. Again and again, become attentive and pay attention to the things that you feel. So as a group, we will try to practice mindful walking for a few more minutes. Okay, so that's about 15 minutes of mindful walking. Now you can return to your seats. So every day we walk, but we are not walking just for the sake of walking. So the idea is just to walk without having any destination, any goal in your mind. Just walk and pay attention. Just walk back and forth while paying attention. And if you really find the art of mindful walking, then it is so relaxing and helpful to maintain mindfulness in your day-to-day life. So the invitation is that you can try this on your own. Every day, take about 15-20 minutes and try to do mindful walking. Just walk back and forth and be aware. Notice what you feel. And that's the walking part of our practice. With that, I think we can move forward, Arosha.
Thank you very much, Bhante, for that guidance on our walking meditation practice. I felt exactly that sense of this is what walking feels like, so that awareness of what walking is was a very useful reflection during that practice. And it was a great way to set ourselves up for the rest of this session today. So thank you very much, Bhante, for the guidance. The next section in our program is to go through the Beginner's Guide to Mindfulness. And this provides some instruction for everyone in the program that we are recommended to follow. Some of you will be very familiar with this, but we share this information each week when we meet for the benefit of anyone new who joins us, but also as a refresher for everyone. So the first step of the guidance is to become familiar with mindfulness meditation practice while walking, as we did this morning, and also sitting. And from Nissarana Vanaya, we have 2 helpful videos that describe this practice. So they're linked here, and each one provides an instruction to each form of practice. And our recommendation is that you watch both before you commence for the first time. So in a short while, I will share instructions, the instructions I'm sharing now as a PDF and as text in the chat. So you'll be able to copy the links from there. The second step is then to allocate some regular time to both sitting and walking practice. You could start with as little as 5 to 10 minutes of each form of meditation each day. And as you become more familiar with the practice, you could increase this to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe even an hour eventually. So regularly sitting and walking is an important habit to develop and will support you in developing your mindfulness. So we recommend that you start each period of practice with some mindful walking and then proceed to the mindful sitting. And try to spend roughly the same amount of time for each form of practice, which can help you get the most from this program. Continue practicing in this way for 3 or 4 days until you've managed a total of about 2 hours of practice for each form of meditation. And once you've done that, you will be ready to move on to the next stage of the guidance, which is to try and describe your experience in a reflection report, or a practice report, it's sometimes called. So this should describe your mindfulness training experience in your own words, including the primary object of your meditation, what you noticed about this object, any other stimuli you noted, like sounds or touch, and so on. So, for example, during your walking practice, you might notice the pressure of your body on the soles of your feet, and how this changes as you take each step. You can describe the prominent sensations that you notice during your practice. You might notice sounds from the environment or thoughts that arise, and you can include all this information in your report too. Later in this session, you'll hear some examples of practice reports, which will help you understand the form that they take. But note that your practice reports should describe your experience in your own words. So This exercise of reflecting on and reflecting about your practice is aimed to help you understand how your mindfulness is developing. But it can also help you share your experience and get guidance on how to progress, which is the third step of the guidance. So once you've written a report of your walking and sitting practice experience, you can share that with us using the online form linked here or the email address. And during these sessions, we will present your report to Venerable Bhante, and Bhante will be able to provide some valuable advice on how you could continue to develop the practice. This establishes a cycle of feedback where you share your experience and receive guidance for further progress. And that's a really important aspect of the program. So your reports and advice can be very beneficial to all of us as well, because we can learn and reflect on the experience shared and also the guidance received. So we really encourage everyone to share your practice reports as often as possible. And finally, this program takes place each week, so you're encouraged to join and also to listen to the recordings of past sessions at the link shown here. So this concludes the presentation of the guide for this program of Mindfulness for Beginners. And we're now going to move to the next section, which is to present today's practice reports, of which there are 2, and listen to the guidance offered by Venerable Dhamma Kusala in response to these. So for this, I'd like to hand over to Anupama, who will also facilitate a short question and answer session following the reading of the reports. Over to you, Anupama.
Thank you, Arosha. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can.
Avasarai Bhante, with your permission, I shall proceed to reading the 2 reports submitted to us today by 2 adults. Report 1. The following reports relate to mindful practice on different days this week. Sitting meditation. Sat on cushion and took a couple of minutes to note posture of body. Sweeping awareness from head to face, neck and shoulders, followed by bottom and legs. At each point, noted any tension in muscles and relaxed into comfortable posture. Following this, brought attention to sensation of touch at nostrils and upper lip, noting prominence of sensation in nostril during in-breath and on upper lip during out-breath. Attention sometimes shifted to sounds, including the recognition of words being spoken by others. On some occasions, this led to streams of thoughts arising, but after some time, the awareness returned to the breath moving past nostrils again. Continued in this way for 30 minutes until the bell rang. Mindfulness in daily activities. Made determination to be mindful during morning activities to prepare for the day. Noted sensations of pressure and cold on feet while walking across the floor. Pressure shifted to be more noticeable at knees when climbing down the stairs. Noted different temperatures and textures of objects as I picked them up and moved them. While drinking coffee, noted hot sensation on hands when holding the cup. Movement of hands when bringing cup to lip and touch of cup followed by hot liquid on lips as tongue when sipping the drink. Noted taste and pressure in throat when swallowing, followed by warm sensation moving inside the body. Continue to try and maintain awareness of movements and touch during remaining period of preparation, including while brushing teeth, washing and getting dressed. Noted how streams of thought would arise, sometimes starting with something I saw, sometimes from a memory that arose in the mind. Reflecting on experience of brushing teeth, I recollected awareness of touch of brush on different parts of mouth, but no awareness of intention to move brush from one part of mouth to other before these actions were performed. Found that I had completed my morning preparations in less time than usual. That is the end of report 1, Bhante.
Okay, so glad to hear that report, especially the latter part of that report. When you hear, you can really feel that meditation is actually living in the present moment, living in your life. So that is the importance of this practice. It is totally related to your day-to-day life, and you can see if you pay attention, you can get them done properly at a shorter time. So that's the idea. We try to be aware about the activities, and you can see when you take steps, how the legs are working. When you pick something up, how you feel the sensations of that object. When you drink something, what are the sensations? When you eat something, what are the sensations? So that very awareness we are practicing. So you can spend an entire lifetime without being aware like this. So it is said that about 50% of our attention is in the present moment. Remaining 50%, we are lost in our thoughts. Wandering mind, we say. So if you think about it, in this world at this moment, half, 50% of the people are lost in their mind. They are not aware where they are, what they are doing. They are not aware. So in a way, it is difficult to grasp, because half of the people at any time, they are lost in their minds. And they come back and they report greater levels of unhappiness in their life. The source of unhappiness is this wandering mind. So if you can pay attention, if you can be aware and try to improve this awareness by 1%, let's say you made it 51%. You are attentive 51% of the time. Then you realize that you are making considerable change in your day-to-day life. You can report greater levels of happiness in your life. So this is the idea. Now you can see one object comes to your mind. Let's say a thought or a sound, something comes to your mind. And based on that object, based on that thought, whole stream of thoughts appear. So that is the wandering mind. Depending on one object, whole set of thoughts are appearing. And you are thinking, planning, and lost in your mind. So when you practice, you can clearly see this process in your mind, and this is happening again and again. Even your day-to-day life, you can feel that due to some mind object, you get a stream of thoughts. So what you have to do is that you have to break this pattern. The way to break this pattern is that you pay attention to the present moment. You start to notice the body. You start to notice how you are taking the steps. You start to notice how you are drinking a cup of tea. When you develop that ability, again and again, your attention naturally comes to the body. It naturally comes to the present moment. And when that happens, you realize that thought processes are not so powerful as they used to be. So this is the idea. Again and again, we break that thought patterns. We bring our attention to the body. We bring our attention to the activity that we are doing. And we try to do it attentive, try to do it successfully. Usually these activities are automated. When you brush your teeth, you can, without your intention, it is happening because they are programmed into you. Let's say you are a right-hander, you brush your teeth with the left hand. Then you have to bring your attention, you have to give attention, and you have to do it step by step. Each movement you have to think and do because you're not used to try your left hand. So in a way, these things help us. We leave the prominent hand and use left hand to brush the teeth. Then you find it is difficult. You have to pay attention. You have to do each and every movement after thinking. So these are ways to practice and see, can I be aware among these activities, among this daily rush, can I be aware? So when you practice like this, really the meditation becomes living. This is living. When you drink a cup of coffee, be aware that you are drinking. When you take steps, be aware that you are climbing. When you take a bath, be aware that you are having a bath. That very awareness is how we train ourselves. That very awareness is the gateway towards calm and peace in your mind. So thinking mind is the source of unhappiness. Wandering mind is the source of unhappiness. So you can see one mind object comes, and depending on that, whole stream of thoughts appear. Maybe some people, they spend hours in those thought processes. But the practitioner, they break that pattern. They again and again bring their attention to the body, again and again bring their attention to the present moment. You have to do this thousands of times till they become habitual. Now the thought processes are habitual. But when you do this process again and again, then present moment become habitual. Your mind automatically comes to the present moment, naturally comes to the present moment. So that is why we practice again and again. You do this practice for months, years, till it becomes habitual. When it becomes habitual, you don't need to practice anymore. The practice comes naturally to you. Peace and happiness comes naturally to you. And the thought processes are out. Thought processes you have to intentionally do. Wandering mind you have to intentionally do. Worrying you have to intentionally do. Anger you have to intentionally do. So that is the idea. You have to do this again and again till this practice becomes habitual to you, till the present moment becomes habitual to you. So it's very good to hear your report as the very first one, and we encourage you to continue your practice this way.
Thank you, Bhante, for that valuable advice and feedback. I shall move on to report number 2, again submitted by an adult. Walking meditation. Walked 15 steps on wooden floor and partly on a rug. Primary object, sensations on feet. Noted warm, cool, soft, firm, hard, pain, pressure, sounds when foot was raised, moved and placed. The coolness was the most prominent sensation noticeable through most of the session. Areas not touching the floor were noted, and the difference in hardness between the wooden parts and the rug. The mind became drowsy, gait unsteady at times, made a determination to continue despite the sleepiness, and after some time the mind became alert again. However, after a short time sleepiness returned, but did not last long as the first time. Continued for 1 hour. Sitting meditation. After the walking meditation, sitting meditation started. Body awareness was primary object. Tingling noted all over body. Cold, warmth, itch, discomfort, contraction, expansion, in-breath, out-breath, touch, and dryness observed. All these sensations came and went. Thoughts, images, proliferation of thoughts too noted. But mind came back to breath. Breath broke up and disappeared and reappeared. Hands appeared to be distorted and then not present. Observing mind noted to question if right hand was holding left or vice versa, or if one hand was on top of the other. This passed and hands reappeared. Pins and needles sensation all over body and cold waves passed from head to toes and then passed after a short period. Meditated for 45 minutes. Thank you, Bhante, for guidance and to all the organizers. End of report 2.
Okay, so when you pay attention, when you observe, you can see the wave patterns or how these things are appearing and disappearing. You can clearly notice. Now drowsiness comes, and if you are not experienced with your practice, you get up and go. I can't continue because of this drowsiness. But if you are experienced, you wait, you pay attention and see what is happening. And after a while, it disappears. Again, alertness comes. Then again, drowsiness comes. So this is more like a cycle or a wave pattern that is happening. So the very first one is the biggest wave. Then the second one is smaller. The third one is even smaller. So when you continue your practice for some time, then only you realize these patterns. Otherwise, every day when the drowsiness comes, you have to get up and go. Stop your practice. But when you continue for some time through these difficulties, then you realize if they come, they are disappearing after a while. The breath is also showing the same kind of a pattern. Whatever that's appear in your practice, they too show this type of a pattern. Let's say even pain, right? So towards the end of your sitting session, the pain start to appear. So a lot of people, they don't want to deal with pain. They don't like to face that part of the practice. But if you stay, if you continue your practice, then you realize the pain is increasing, the burning sensations, it is appearing more and more. And now the mind is at work, suggesting you to get up, suggesting you to go do other activities, suggesting you that time is up. So these things are there. But if you continue, then you realize this pain is also showing some kind of a wave pattern. It is increasing, 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 going up. But if you stay long enough, then it too will disappear. Then again, pain comes. Again, it disappears. So these things are happening. These wave patterns are happening. So whatever that appears, you have to stay calm, stay patient, and see what is happening. Then you realize it is not permanent. It is subjected to change. That is the truth of this world. Whatever that appears, they will change. They will disappear after a while. Even the problems that you face during your day-to-day life, you think this problem won't go away. This is a permanent problem. You think, but if you just let it be for a while, then you realize it too disappears after a while. If you just let it go and stay relaxed in your mind, then it too will disappear after a while. So this is the nature of the world. New variants appear, and after a while they disappear. Again, another variant is coming, making a huge fuss, but after a while they disappear. The wars are appearing. Feels like we are going to the Third World War, but after a while they too disappear. So the news media, social media, they try to create a huge fuss out of these things. They try to suggest that the world is coming to an end. But if you calmly wait for a while, if you bring your attention to something else for a while, then after a few weeks, that is all news. You can't sell it anymore because that incident is over. So this is a valuable lesson that you can apply in your day-to-day life as well. Whatever comes, they come with an urgency. They tell you to answer right now. In this moment, you have to give a solution. So you acknowledge those problems. You tell them, stay for a while. There's a queue, there's a waiting list. I will give you your opportunity. And if you keep it for a day or two, for some time, then you realize that it is no longer a burning problem. The same person that brought the problem will come and say, now I don't need your help. Now that is over, they will say. So that very experience we feel in our practice as well. The drowsiness comes, pain comes, the breath comes. They try to suggest that this is permanent. This is the end of your practice. But if you continue for a while, then the pain disappears. Drowsiness disappears. Breath disappears. Although they disappear again, they appear after a while. So this is how the world works. The change is the only thing that is permanent in this world. So you are experiencing that when you practice. So what only thing you have to do is that do this again and again. Continue this for a long period. Then your mind will absorb this nature of change. Your mind will absorb the proper behavior of this world. So when it absorbs, then it will no longer complain about these things. In a deeper level, your own mind knows, although these things appear, after a while they disappear. Whatever come into being shall pass. That is the realization that we will have in our mind. So you are moving towards that way. Continue and continue to report.
Thank you, Bhante, for that very practical guidance and advice to us all. We now move on to the Q&A session. And in fact, we've got our first question for the day, which I have received via message. With your permission, Bhante, I will proceed to read the first question for the day. So this is a query asked by a 14-year-old. Respected Bhante, thank you for the guidance that we receive regularly. I am 14 years old. I have been meditating for years now, and I have started hearing a static sound in my ear at random occasions. Is there anything I could do to not get that? Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, so the sound appears in your head, right? So this is, we call it sound of silence. Sound of silence. Some people, they get it like a ringing sound in their head. It is not coming through your ear, but instead it's inside your head. So when you practice, these things come. The moments we feel these type of things. So as per your question, you feel like it is troubling you. It is disturbing you. But this is natural to the practice. There's a small story about sound of silence on YouTube. You can watch that as well. There's a very nice video about a Japanese child who is seeking after the sound of silence. Now you have found it. When you pay attention to that sound, that is the present moment. That is the practice that we are talking about. So in a way, these things help you. Now let's say a beginner, if they try to pay attention to their body, if they do it for a few days, they come and complain, now I feel my body all the time. Now I feel the vibrations, I feel the heat, I feel all these little sensations inside my body. And that is troubling me because I can't get rid of it. It is coming after me like a ghost. But this is a result of your practice. When you practice for years, the present moment becomes natural to you. And when it becomes natural, you can hear these bodily sensations, vibrations, then the sound of silence, a ringing sound in your head. So these things appear. So this is a benefit of your practice. And when you be with them, then you are attentive, you are in the present moment. It feels like they appeared newly. But what happens is that you start to notice. That is the difference. They are not fresh. Instead, you start to notice. Your attention improved, and now you notice these things. Your attention improves, you start to feel your body more and more. So take it as a benefit of your practice. As long as you hear this sound, you are attentive. You are in the present moment. So this is an encouragement for you to practice even through your day-to-day life. Whenever you hear this ringing sound, just plug into it and just stay for a few seconds. Even middle of class, you hear this sound and you can just plug into it and just stay for a few seconds. When you come back to the class, you are much more relaxed than you used to be. So all the time you have this comfort, you have this safe place that you can go to. Whenever there's a trouble, just plug into this sound. Whenever somebody is blaming, just plug into this sound. Whenever there is worry in your mind, just plug into this sound and you are relaxed and peaceful. So take it as an achievement, take it as a benefit of your practice, a bonus that you received. And when you change that point of view, then you realize this is a blessing. Whenever I pay attention to that sound, I am utterly in the present moment. So that's the answer I want to give.
Thank you, Bhante, for those very encouraging words. Certainly helps with the re-evaluation, I suppose, of where you are in terms of your mindfulness practice. And well done to everyone who are continuing to go on this journey. As Arosha put in the messages, if anyone else has any questions to ask at this point, kindly raise your Zoom hand and we will invite you to unmute yourself and ask Bhante any questions. I will give you about 30 seconds perhaps to respond. I cannot see any Zoom hands raised, so I suppose this is the conclusion of the Q&A session. Thank you again, Bhante, and over to you, Arosha.
Thank you, Anupama. Thank you, Bhante, for all the advice and guidance. So we now come to the section of today's session where we invite Bhante to deliver a talk on mindfulness to us to help develop our practice. Therefore, I would now like to invite, with permission to speak Bhante's name, Venerable Homagama Dhamma Kusala Thero, to deliver a talk that will help continue to support our mindfulness practice. Over to you, Bhante, with much merits.
Dear friends, we have about, I think, 20 minutes or 30 minutes just to discuss about the practice. So when we pay attention, when we be aware that we are walking, when we be aware that we are sitting, we start to feel various things. Let's say, for example, you may start to notice your breath, or you may start to notice that you are walking, the sensations of your feet. You may start to notice. So this is the starting point of your practice. You have to pay attention to your body and identify what is prominent when you pay attention. For some people, that is the breath. For some people, that is the movement of the stomach. For some people, there's a vibration that is happening. And while walking also, you have to pay attention while calmly walking and be aware what is the prominent sensation. Maybe it is the weight shifting from one leg to the other. Maybe it is the texture of the ground that you feel. So this is how we start our practice. We initially learn how to observe few breaths. We initially learn how to observe few steps. And that is the starting point of mindfulness, that we know that breath is there and I can observe few breath cycles. The steps are there, I can observe few cycles. But when you practice for some time, there's an important question that you have to ask. What is this question? The breath, is it changing or is it staying constant? The sensations at your feet, are they changing or are they the same as long as you walk? So when this question is asked, you try to pay attention more and more, try to see whether the breath is changing, whether the sensations at your feet is changing. So if your mindfulness is not strong enough, you will come and say, no, I sat for 30 minutes. The breath stayed the same. I walked for 30 minutes. The sensations weren't changing. But we give this question again and again, ask you to continue your practice again and again, and observe whether this is true, whether the breath is changing or not, whether the sensations of your feet is changing or not. And when you improve your mindfulness, when you start to observe more closely, then you realize, when I sit for some time, the breath is changing towards the end of my sitting session. The steps are changing towards the end of my walking session. So that is a good starting point to notice the change that is happening in your practice. Now your mind is strong enough to notice the change that is happening. Now your mindfulness is sharp enough to notice the change that is happening. And when you do this for some time, sometimes you come and say, although I feel it like a single breath, it is a combination of small sensations. Although I feel a single sensation, it is a combination of lot of smaller sensations. This observation is very much valuable to your practice, because now you start to see the actual picture. When you call a sensation breath, that is actually a combination of thousands of little sensations. When you call something the sensations at your feet, that is a combination of thousands of smaller sensations. And when your mindfulness improves, you start to notice the real picture. You start to notice the real idea behind this reality. So that's why we invite you to pay attention again and again. Try to observe, try to be aware and see that breath is a combination of little parts. The sensations at your feet is a combination of little smaller sensations. And when you unite them, they become the breath. When you unite them, they become the sensation at your feet. So it is a good practice to break everything into smaller pieces and analyze. It is a good practice to break them into bits and pieces and analyze. Now, sometimes you say, I got a thought. But if you really pay attention, then you will realize there are a combination of thoughts. Chain thoughts, train thoughts, we say. It is not a single thought. Instead, they are a combination of thoughts. It is not a single sensation. Instead, it is a combination of little sensations. It is not a single breath, but instead, it's a combination of smaller sensations. When you take as a whole, they become a breath, they become a sensation, they become thoughts. But if you break them into smaller pieces, then there is no real value. There is no real essence. For example, let's say you gather small gadgets for so many years and build a telescope. When you combine them, they become James Webb, the biggest project the humans have ever done. And the investment is so much. But when you break them into smaller pieces, when you dismantle them, then you realize there is no real essence. Some mirrors are there, some gadgets are there, some connectors are there, some nuts and bolts are there. That's the bits and pieces that makes the telescope. When you combine them, that is the greatest project the man has ever done. So in your practice also, you try to separate them into bits and pieces. And when you separate them, there is no real essence, there is no real value. But when you unite them, then they becomes a thought, a burning problem, a sensation, a breath, or even pain. But if you really pay attention, then you realize this pain is not a single pain. Instead, it's a combination of little pain bubbles. It's a combination of thousands of tiny pain bubbles. And when you unite them, you are saying, my head is aching, I can't work. My back is aching, I can't sit. My leg is aching, paining, I can't walk. That is only when you unite them. But the practitioner, instead of seeing them as a whole, they try to break them into bits and pieces and notice the real feeling, real idea behind these things. For example, let's take your body. When you separate the body into parts, then there is no real essence. You cut your hair, you put it in the dustbin. You trim your nails, you throw it away. When you take those hair pieces, when you take the nail pieces, there is no real essence. You have various parts of your body. You have the skin, you have the flesh, you have the bones, you have the organs, you have your brain. So when you separate them, there's no real essence. And it appears so disgusting. It appears so not attractive. But when you put them together, a man appears or a woman appears, and it becomes so attractive. Sometimes you want to talk with them again and again. Sometimes you want to see their pictures again and again. Sometimes you want to hang around them again and again, because it becomes a unity and it becomes so appealing, so attractive. But if you break into pieces, then there is no real essence. Flesh is there, skin is there, bones are there, various organs are there. So that's the way that you have to look. You have to break these things into bits and pieces and try to see the real picture. Try to see their real nature. So that's why initially you feel a single breath. But when you observe again and again, you start to feel that it's a combination of little sensations. Initially, you feel that your back is aching. But when you observe it properly, you start to realize that it's a combination of smaller, tiny pain bubbles. Initially, you say you get thoughts. or you got an emotion. But when your mindfulness improves, you realize that it's a whole set of thoughts that are appearing. There's no single thought, instead a combination. There's no single emotion, instead a combination of emotions. So that is a good way to practice, and that is a good way to observe your day-to-day life. Whatever that is happening, try to break it into bits and pieces, and there's no real essence. There's no real value. But unite them, they becomes a huge problem. They becomes a world war. Again, break them into bits and pieces, there's no real essence. So there's this analogy about a running man. This man is running. He's running so fast. And while running, he's thinking, why am I running? It is so tiring to run. And after thinking like this, he starts to walk. And after walking for a while, he's thinking again, now I am walking. Why am I walking? If I start to stand, then it will be less tiring. Then he stops and standing. After standing for a while, he's thinking, why am I standing? If I sit down, I feel more comfortable. Then after a while, he's sitting. While sitting, he's thinking, why am I sitting? If I lie down, then I will feel more comfortable. So this is the analogy of a running man. So in a similar way, when you get these thoughts, try to break them into smaller pieces. Try to question them. When you get emotions, try to question them. Try to break it into bits and pieces and see the real nature of them. So you get a lot of urging thoughts. You just stop for a while and think, what is the rush? Can I take a break from these thoughts? Can I see the real nature of them? Sometimes you are driving. You are trying to reach your workplace, and there's a huge rush inside you. It's a combination of things. You are watching the clock. Your mind is suggesting that you are late. Then you are thinking about the problems at home. You are thinking about the problems at work. You are thinking about your breakfast. So you are in this rush. But if you stop for a while and ask yourself, what is the rush? Can I drive slower? Can I take a breath? Can I stop for a while? And if you just reflect like that, then within few seconds you are relaxed. But after a while, again it is building. Again you have to let go and relax yourself. Even at your workplace, towards the end of the day, there's this huge rush. You have to complete these things, you have to go home, and you have to bring these things to your home, and you are thinking again and again. Just stop for a while and try to take a breath and notice what is happening. Probably you can listen to the surrounding sounds for a few seconds, few minutes. Notice what is happening. So that way we try to stop this rush and try to bring our attention to the present moment. Try to escape our mind from these thoughts and try to bring your attention to the body. So this is a very nice way to practice. If you combine them, they becomes a problem. They becomes a war. They becomes a body. But if you separate them, then there is no real essence. Even the problems that you have, if you go to the root of that problem, it is not a huge thing. But all the things combined, it becomes a burning problem. So that's the idea of this practice. Instead of seeing it as a unity, we break it into bits and pieces and try to see the real nature. For that, you have to strengthen mindfulness of your mind. If you are not practicing, then you say, no, they are not a combination of things. Instead, it's a single thought. Instead, it's a single sensation. Instead, it's a problem that I have. But if you practice again and again, if you encourage mindfulness in your mind, then you come and say, although I felt like a single breath, now it is a combination of things. Although I call it pain, it's a combination of little tiny pain bubbles. Although I call it a thought, it's a combination of little thoughts. It's a chain thought or a train thought that is happening. Now, if the frame rate is higher than 21 per second, then you see a motion picture. You see a movie. And it is so vivid and colorful. It gives so much meaning. But if you really know the process, if you really know what is behind that projector, then you know it's a combination of frames. If the frame rate is higher than 21%, you see a motion picture. You separate those frames and look at one by one, then there is no story. There is no motion picture. So this is what's happening. When you improve your mindfulness, you start to see the real picture, see the real nature of things. When you see the real nature, you start to realize that it is not a motion picture. Instead, it's a combination of pictures. It is not a single breath. It's a combination of sensations. It is not a single pain. Instead, combination of tiny pain bubbles. And more you practice like this, then you realize there are gaps in between, the empty spaces in between. Initially, we call it a single breath. Then we call it combination of little sensations. Now you are telling that in between there are gaps. And when you practice more and more, the same person, he will come and say, now the gaps are everywhere. Sensations are very little. Most of the time I see gaps instead of the sensations. In between two thoughts, there's a gap. In between sounds, there's a gap. In between sensations, there's a gap. Now you are seeing the real picture. Only 4% of this world is material. When you look around, you can't see that. You see it vivid and colorful. And everywhere you see, it is material. But you break them into bits and pieces. You put them under a microscope, then you realize the gaps are much larger and the material is very little. Only 4% of the surrounding things are material. 96% of the things are empty. Even in your mind, you feel like this is continuing. My attention is continuing. My mind is continuing. I continue to hear sounds. But the practitioner, they come and say, there are gaps all the time. There are gaps in between. My attention is also appearing and disappearing. Again and again it is appearing and disappearing. So these things you can experience with practice. Even in your sitting sessions, even during your walking sessions, sometimes you feel that for some time, I wasn't here. You can only reflect that after coming to the present moment. You notice last 5 minutes, I was aware, but I couldn't reflect. I couldn't feel the time. I couldn't feel the space. Only when the time and space is established, then only you can reflect. Only when the material things are there, then only you can reflect. So the practitioner, they will come and say, while sitting, the time is slipping. Sometimes for a minute, for a few minutes, I was aware, but I couldn't reflect. I was sitting for 30 minutes, but it felt like few minutes. I was walking for some time, but it felt like small time period. So these are good observations that now your attention is going to the remaining 96% of the universe. The 96% that you kept ignoring. And when your attention is with that 96%, there's no friction. There are no troubles. Instead, it is always calming and peaceful. And your attention comes back to that 4%, then the friction is happening. Then the troubles are happening. All the concepts are coming. So this is how we evolve in our practice. You start with your breath and you improve little by little. You practice and see what is not there. You start with the material things and you move your attention towards the dark energy, dark material. So I hope you got the idea that I tried to communicate, and I invite all of you to continue your practice and experience these things for yourself. And if you practice long enough, then of course you can experience for yourself. Thank you for listening.
Much merits to Bhante for that wonderful and insightful talk on mindfulness. It is always such a pleasure for us to go into the such fine details of on mindfulness shared from Bhante, especially when we are going through our daily life with a lot of challenges, difficulties, or work tasks, and to understand that we can apply mindfulness in almost all the aspects of life is a wonderful form of knowledge. So now we have a minute or two for a question on the talk, if anyone is interested. Otherwise, we can go on to the next item. You can raise the Zoom hand if you have a short question for Bhante. Okay, I think there's no questions on the talk for today, and the time is almost up. So I would like to wholeheartedly thank and appreciate Bhante's dedication and time and effort provided to us on this session to help us learn and gather insightful knowledge and evidence on mindful practice. So on behalf of all the organizers and attendees, I would like to wish merits to Bhante and wish that Bhante's own practice will be fruitful and successful from the benefits of gathered from delivering this session continuously up to today. And also we wish that Bhante will be able to make similar profound contribution to this program into the future. Thank you so much, Bhante. I would also like to thank and mention Most Venerable Bhante Udairegam Dhammajiva Mahathero for requesting us to start up this program. And I would also like to thank all the organizers who are extremely dedicated to this program and contributing each week, and also all the attendees who have joined through Zoom and who are interested in developing mindfulness in their daily lives, and who are being the insight for us to continue this program, adding value to their life and also making it the backbone reason for this program to be sustained into the future. So thank you so much. Next, I would like to confirm that this is the end of the session. I have three quick announcements to make. I would like to share the screen for those, for the first two announcements. You can see the website Nissarana.lk. You can go onto this website and find out more details about the source of all this great insight, which is Nissarana Vanaya Forest Monastery. You can become familiar with the topics and the content on this website. So I believe those resources will become sharper in your knowledge and practice in mindfulness. Then I will share the website on Satipasala Foundation, which is a remarkable, groundbreaking program invented by Most Venerable Bhante Udairegam Dhammajiva Mahathero to dedicate energy and commitment to deliver the message of mindfulness to many persons from all walks of life. So you can go on and have a look at all the programs that are there and gain some insight on how you can start participating in these programs if you have the time and commitment. I will stop sharing the screen. Next is the announcement, that the third announcement, that the same way that we have been gaining momentum and gaining benefit from mindful practice, there might be others who would be interested in learning this art of life. So we would like to invite all of you to try and spread the message and to fellow colleagues or friends who might be interested in this kind of program. So with those three announcements, this is the end of the session for today. I would like to wish you a happy and mindful week ahead. And also, I would like to hope that you will be able to join next week, similar time, for another session on mindfulness. And I wish that you can further your practice this week from what you have gained today in terms of knowledge and wisdom from Bhante. I will end the session now and see you all next week. Thank you.